Gav goes in. Yeah, listen, we're gonna get onto it, man. We're gonna get onto it because I think this is gonna be something that I think divides a lot of opinion, and I'm looking forward to it. And again, as always, make sure your questions and comments are coming through, and let me know what you think because you know there's a lot of people out there that seem to think that there's a lot of players that are world class in this era of football. And you know it is, yeah. For me, because I've been doing my edition of Greats of the Game, and guys, make sure you check that out. There should be a couple coming out today and tomorrow as well. And when I've seen players just from growing up, and I see this era of football right now, for me, it's frustrating because as I said, I have seen some real footballers, some real footballers, in my opinion, that are some of the greats of the game. And to be in an era right now where, I would say there's only a handful of real elite world-class players. Three of them for me are in my thumbnail right now. And as I said, I think there's people out there that would assume that this era of football is littered with talent, and for me, not so much. Especially with the kind of players that that I've seen. Big up to Christopher McGrath. Big up, guys. Keep your questions and comments coming through. Big up to Fitz as well. Big up each and every time. Keep your questions and comments coming through, and let me know if you agree or not. And as I said, I'll go through what I'm going to go through, and then I'll get back to you guys definitely. And as always, make sure you smash the likes and sub to the channel. So, as I said, the three guys that are in my thumbnail, Pedri, Moises Caicedo, and Vitinha. I think the majority of people, I'll be very surprised that if there isn't, would agree that if we're talking about world-class players, them three there are definitely there easily for me, because the fact that I've gone for them three, three central midfielders, all three of them playing in different leagues as well. For me, definitely, these guys are certified world-class players. And I think the way that I look at world-class, I look at, the overall player in terms of, do they have more strengths that outweigh the weaknesses, in a sense. I never look at numbers, for me, numbers should only be used as a bonus, so if you're comparing players against another, it should only be based on pure quality. And then if you want to get the numbers involved to kind of back up the opinion, then fair enough. But for me, I will never look at a player and just base it on, they're the best player because they're just hitting mad numbers. Because, if you know your football anyway, you will know that if a player gets numbers, it's usually due to the setup of the team. I'll give you a prime example. If you've got someone like Erling Haaland, for instance, even though Erling Haaland is a goal scorer, and this is another thing people need to realize, goal scorer and finishing is different, If you're a goal scorer, that means, you guarantee a certain amount of goals every season. Finishing is about a variety of finishes, and if I look at world football right now, if I'm looking at the top strikers in the world, I would say Harry Kane's probably the one striker in world football right now that has a different variety of finishes, But then if you look at Mbappe, you look at Haaland, you look at Harry Kane, they're all goal scorers, because they all consistently put the ball in the back of the net. Obviously Lewandowski as well, but obviously Lewandowski is slightly older than a lot of them. So, but them four you would say are all goal scorers. But in terms of finishing is about a variety of finishes. So what I would say is the way that I look at it is the overall player, in all positions. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through all the major leagues in Europe. And I'm going to go through all the teams, the major teams. And I'm going to pick out what players that I think are world-class. And I'm going to tell you why I think they're world-class and why I don't think. And if there's players that, that are considered to be world-class, I'm gonna discuss why I don't think they are. So yeah, make sure you smash the likes, make sure you sub to the channel. And again, make sure your comments and questions are coming in as well. Even if you disagree with my opinion, it's what it's all about and we can discuss. So again, I've been through Pedri, Moises Caicedo, and Vitinha. So let's just discuss them first because, again, they're the three that are in the thumbnail. For me, you've got Pedri, and I think Pedri, for me, I know he's out injured at the moment, but he's undoubtedly world class. I think, if you love your football and the way that you watch Pedri play, the guy is just an absolute class act, really. The way that he can dictate the tempo of a game, the way that he can just control midfield. And again, this is a player that for me doesn't have physicality, and again, people might say, but he's playing in the Spanish league. What I want people to look at is the fact that this is a guy, that has done it in the Champions League. If you think of when Barcelona recently played Newcastle at St. James's Park, if you look at Newcastle's midfield, physicality there. You've got Bruno Guimaraes, Sandro Tonali, and you've got Joel Linton. Three, you would say, very physical players. And Pedri just ran that game from start to finish with Frankie de Jong. And as I said, for me, he's the closest player I've seen, Pedri, to a Luka Modric in terms of the dribbling ability, the touch, the awareness on the ball, the technique, just the absolute quality that he has. Everything he does, Pedri, he does it at a high level. And that's what Iniesta did, And again, if you look at Pedri, he's someone that doesn't have mad numbers, but he's a prime example of why, for me, I would always keep alive, this whole people should not be looking at numbers as a way of justifying why other players should be ahead of others, because Pedri's a prime example, just like Iniesta. These guys didn't average a lot of goals throughout their season, throughout their career. Go and have a look at Iniesta's career. He didn't get mad numbers, Do I believe that Pedri gets mad numbers? No. He is capable of definitely scoring more goals, but all you have to do is look at how good he's on the ball. As I said, he has no weaknesses when it comes to being technical. He has everything. He can pass, he can shoot, he can dribble, great first touch, ball manipulation, game understanding, and in theory, his teams win the big trophies playing in Spain. Obviously, the thing that and obviously winning the Euros as well. I think the thing that Pedri has to do for me is Champions League with Barcelona and a World Cup with Spain. But I believe he does both of them, if I'm honest, because I look at the Spain national team in the players that they produce. I'm looking at Barcelona, they'll always be in the latter stages for me and they can grow. So I have no doubt that you're looking at definitely a world-class player there. Then we go on to Vitinha. I would liken Vitinha a lot to Pedri in a sense of, these guys don't have physicality, but what these guys have is just quality on the ball. And someone like Vitinha, for me, it's like, these kind of players, you just can't get the ball off. These guys are just intelligent, technical, and again, a lot of it comes from the futsal. You can tell that these guys have played futsal in their career because the short touch, the short passing, the passing and moving, the technique, the touch, and again, I think it's credit to see that, there's two players in the world that are being spoken about in the sense of Vitinha and Pedri. These guys don't have physicality, but I think everyone in this chat right now and the majority of people around the world would agree that you've got two players there that are genuinely world-class players. Vitinha's won a Champions League as well. Obviously with Portugal, he's still got to win a Euros or a World Cup. Obviously won league titles with PSG as well. But it's just that for me, for what I like to see is how these guys control midfield, because being able to control midfield, and not being a physical monster, I think is underestimated. And if you look at Vitinha and Pedri, these guys consistently run midfields, and what I would say with Vitinha, this is a guy that used to play. Well, he was at Wolves, if anyone remembers. And again, this is when he was slightly younger. Wolves obviously moved him on, and it's just mad now to see that PSG have got genuinely one of the best midfielders in the world. And what I like about Vitinha is his want to always get on the ball. There's players out there, that hide, when they're not really that confident of being in any situation on the ball. And the key for me, especially with a midfield player, is being press resistant. If you're a press resistant midfielder, you're generally going to be a top player. Like, because all the top players that I watch, yeah, or I rate, these guys are all press resistant, being able to take the ball under pressure in any situation. And even just going back to myself, when I used to play, I used to thrive off that. Even when I play five-a-side, I prefer having the ball in pressure situations, because it allows you to use your ability on the ball, your technique, and your strength as well. And this is what I love about the likes of Vitinha and Pedri. These guys can take the ball in any area, and if you've got a player like that that can help you alleviate pressure as well and build attacks, this is what it's about, And as I said, I liken Vitinha and Pedri very, very, very similar. These are two players that I would love to see as well, win the Ballon d'Or. Do I think they win the Ballon d'Or? I think the way football's going now, it's about numbers. And this is why I don't think these guys are in contention, unfortunately. I think they're guys that can finish in the top 10, but when it comes to number one, the way the game's gone now, it's just very focused on numbers. And as I said, I'm never going to be someone that's just going to be solely focused on, you know, players being rated because of numbers. I'm from an era where that was never a thing. And as I keep saying to you guys, just have a look at the greats of the game. I'm doing a greats of the game series at the moment. Make sure you give that a check. And all you have to do is look at these guys' numbers. The numbers weren't great, but I think it's one of them things that, yeah, we're in an era that we have to just understand, like not understand, but we have to just deal with, players getting hyped up for some reason, because it's just purely based on how many goals they're scoring or how many assists they're getting. Well, not even assists. I think they combine the GA together to make it seem as if these players are doing a lot more than what they're actually doing. But the greats of the game, we never looked at that. That's a fact. But as I said, Vitinha and Pedri, two highly technical players, two of the best in the world, definitely. And then we go on to Moises Caicedo. Massive fan of Caicedo. I'd have loved Caicedo to be at Manchester United, but we fumbled that a few years back. And I look at the Premier League, and again, we're going to touch on the Premier League because for me, there's not too many world-class players in the Premier League. And I think it's important to understand where I'm coming from, because some people might actually say, how can you say that these players are not world-class, yeah? And I'll say it again. I don't look at players that are scoring an obscene amount of goals to say that they're world-class. I purely look at, the player themselves. How are they technical? Have they got good game understanding? Have they got a great first touch? Can they pass the ball? These are the kind of things that I look at, not just, oh, he's had a poor 90 minutes, but he scored a goal. Because I don't really care about that, because there's no longevity to that, really. Yeah. So if you're unsure as to what I look for, that's what I'm kind of looking at. I'm looking at the overall player. Do they have more strengths that outweigh the weaknesses? And for me, Caicedo, I've touched on Caicedo plenty of times. I think Caicedo, in terms of players in the world right now, he's probably the one player that I would say he's probably a 7 or 8 across the board, in terms of defensive and attacking wise. I think he's as good attacking wise or defensive wise as he is attacking. I don't think you get too many players like that in the world. They're either very good attacking and very poor defensively, or the other way around. you know. And I look at as a midfield player, you know, he is just as good defensive as he is attacking, you know, and that's why for me he's definitely world class. Again, another guy that's press resistant, that can take the ball under pressure. I don't think Caicedo is as technical as Pedri and Vitinha, but what he does have, he has the hunger, determination, and he's got the raw strength as well. You know, that makes him an absolute beast of a player, really, for Chelsea. And as I said, he can pass, he can shoot, you know, he can defend, he can attack. You know, he's good in the air, he's aggressive, you know, he can tackle, interceptions. Like the guy is just a modern day all-round midfielder. As I said, I think in terms of having all those things together, he's probably number one for me right now. You know, I prefer the Pedris and Vitinhas, but I think Caicedo, in terms of his aggression and his strength, he pips the likes of Vitinha and Pedri for me. But I reiterate, those two for me are more highly technical players. You know, so yeah, them three there for me, certified, you know, world-class players. Let's just get on to your questions and comments quickly, and then I'll go on to who I think is world-class. Guys, big up yourselves. Make sure we're smashing the likes. Make sure we're subbing to the channel as well. There's 7 of you in there and only 2 likes. Guys, if you're watching the channel, make sure you smash the likes and help the channel to grow. Let's see. Big up to Broderick, man. Long time, man. Where you been? Big up. Big up to Mike Willie as well. So Fitz says, I judge the world class, which is level off the standards set by players in that position, i.e. striker is judged off R9, Cole, etc. And for that reason, these times there isn't many actual world class in my eyes. And you know what, Fitz? I have to agree with that because when I look at R9 as like, he's the standard bearer for me in terms of strikers, you know, I'm not saying you're ever going to get another R9 because you're not. But I think it's too easy for people to just chuck players in the world-class bracket because of, and it's mainly off of numbers, you know. And again, I'm going to touch on a few of the players in the Premier League, you know, and it might shock people, but if you understand where I'm coming from in how I look at certain players and how I compare them, you know, it probably won't be a shock because football is littered with players that they're saying are world-class. And it's you just know it's just purely off of numbers, you know. It's purely off of that. If we could run a tournament of World 11s, current 2008, 2003, 1997, current wouldn't even bother turning up. I hear it. I hear it. Mike says, world class for me is how greatly a player can influence the game. And that isn't always GA. Players like Pedri have great influence on the game without GA. They are also very good technically. Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself, Mike. Big up, man. Because this is what I'm trying to get people to understand. You know, I think if you're a lover of the game, yeah, then these kind of things are not really hard to understand. But as I said, I think the era that we're in now, or the influence that maybe bigger channels have over others, you know, a lot of people have very much the same opinion, you know. And for me, I'm never going to have the opinion that a player should ever be classed as world class because they're just hitting mad numbers. You know, I've never watched the game like that. And, you know, I think that's perfect. You know, Pedri is someone that you just watch for the quality of the player that he is, not for his numbers. You know, and as I said, I think he's never going to have sick numbers. He's not. You know, but the way the game's going, it's like the players that have mad numbers are the only ones that are getting rated, which is madness, really. True great players are pretty much universally acknowledged. As such, numbers won't ever change the results of the eye test. Exactly. And guys, I'd advise people to go and watch or to go and have a look at Zinedine Zidane's numbers, Andres Iniesta's numbers. Go and have a look at their numbers, and then you'll clearly see that these guys were not hitting nowhere near what some of the midfielders, you know, you would say in this era are hitting. It's a fact, you know. There aren't a lot of world-class players in the Prem or football in general nowadays. This is what I'm trying to say, Mike. And this is why I'm going to go through all the major teams in Europe. And I'm going to go through the players that, in my opinion, are world-class or not. And I'm going to explain why they're not. And again, make sure you guys put in your comments and questions. In the Prem, I say Ahmad Caicedo, Rodri, Walton, Anderson, Mainu, though his growth has been stunt a bit. Again, I'm going to go through it. So, yeah, make sure you guys interact with that as well. VVD also, for me, is a world-class defender, proper brick wall. M1ZZ plays. Listen, you're coming on there, yeah? You're coming on there. And as I said, man, you're watching me, man. That's the thing. I ain't got a clue who you are, yeah? If you don't want to watch the stream, then fuck off, man. It's that simple, man. I don't give a damn, man. Like, you're coming on there with hate, man. Like, you know what I mean? You're not forced to be it, man. That's the thing. I only want people on there that are proper footballing people and want to have a discussion, because there's too many people out there that just chat rubbish, you know what I mean? And as I say, if you're going to come on there and chat rubbish and you can't construct the sentence together, then you can fuck off, man. It's that simple. Mate, listen, you're watching me. I don't even know who you are, man. You know what I mean? I don't even know who you are. You're watching me, man. That's the problem. You know, it's not my fault that you're not in a position to come and do this. You know what I mean? You're watching me. I ain't got a clue who you are, man. That's a fact. So anyway, let's get on, man. Waste, man. Yeah, big up to Jude Fenwick as well. So guys, let me go through the Premier League, yeah? So we're gonna go through obviously all the top teams in the Premier League right now. So if I look at Arsenal, yeah, I would genuinely say Arsenal probably have, I would say, possibly one player, maybe two, that are either on the fringes of world class or are actually world class. And I would say, Urian Timber is probably on the fringes. You know, I would say he's probably got another year to kind of prove that he can be world class. But I wouldn't say he's there yet. If I'm looking at Gabriel and Saliba, I'd probably say Gabriel is probably the one player I would look at and say, if people want to say he's world class, yeah, I can hear it, because I'm looking at Gabriel in terms of a defender, you know, over the last couple of seasons, you know, aggressive, leader, you would say, you know, pops up with vital goals for Arsenal as well. I also would say that, you know, as someone that is probably the main organizer in the defense for Arsenal, yeah, I can see why people would say he's world class, you know. But if I'm comparing him to defenders of the past, you know, he's just seen as a good defender, because I've seen a lot of Gabriels throughout my career in terms of defenders. But in this era right now, if people wanted to say he's world class, then fair enough, because if you're looking at the top 5 defenders in world football, centre-backs, he's probably in there, you know. So I wouldn't really have an argument if people say he's world class. I think if we're being honest, I would say he's probably on the fringes, you know, just like Saliba. I think those two are not world class, but they're probably near that level, you know. Declan Rice, for me, is not world class. Again, Declan Rice is a very good midfielder in the Premier League, but the makeup of Declan Rice, why people put him into the world class bracket, is purely because of him scoring 2 free kicks against Real Madrid. And what makes me laugh here is that if Declan Rice scored the free kicks against, let's say, Lyon, this world class talk wouldn't be happening. They're only saying he's world class because the free kicks came against Real Madrid, and it's happened to be against Real Madrid, who are, you know, arguably the biggest club in the world. Because if it wasn't against Real Madrid, this world class talk wouldn't be coming about. You know, I think Declan Rice is a very good midfielder, but when I look at Vitinha, I look at Pedri. You know, these guys are press resistant. Declan Rice is not. These guys can control the midfield. Declan Rice can't. Declan Rice's X factor is his energy. But because you got energy, that's not to say that you should be considered world class, you know. And as I said, I think when I hear Declan Rice being called world class, it shows me that the game's at an all-time low. That's the truth. Because I've never seen a player like Declan Rice with what he offers being considered world class. If you want to say he's one of the best midfielders in England, then cool, fair enough. But there's levels to this. World class means you have to be, you know, you have to be exemplary at everything, really, to be considered that. And as I said, he's just a very, very good midfielder in England. But when it comes to world class talk, he's nowhere near that. And this is what I'm trying to say to you. The world class conversation is just getting thrown around for every player. You know, for me, it's a small circle. And I would say if you're looking at literally Arsenal, they probably have maybe three players who, funny enough, are all defenders on the fringes. Or if you wanted to throw a Gabriel into there as world class, maybe. But I don't think it's undisputed to say that Gabriel is in there, you know. And now look at Bukayo Saka again. You know, big up Clockenders if you're watching. Clockenders thinks he's top 10 in the world. And if Bukayo Saka is top 10 in the world, then we really are in trouble. Because Bukayo Saka, for me, is not even top 10 in the Premier League. But yet we're meant to believe that he's top 10 footballers in the world. Shocking, you know. And as I said, Bukayo Saka, for me, is a good Premier League player. I liken him to Declan Rice. These guys are good Premier League players. But when we start hearing that that these guys are world class from other fans, nowhere near it for me. Nowhere near it. And as I said, man, these guys are just good Premier League players. But the world class bracket, man, is high. And they're not in it for me. So again, Arsenal probably have maybe one if you're being generous, but I would say they've probably got three players that probably are just below that. Then we move on to Chelsea. Yeah, I look at Reece James. Sorry, Reece James for me is the best right back in the world for me when he's fit, and he has been for a long time now. Don't worry, I will get on to your questions, guys. So Reece James for me, you know, when he's fit, is the best right back in the world. Why is that? Because Reece James, for me, is highly technical. You know, he's physically strong. You know, he has decent pace as well. He can deliver a cross. You know, he's got a great first touch, great technique. You know, he's very adaptable as well, being able to play very well in midfield, being able to play very well at right back. I think him playing right back in this era of football, in terms of his build, you know, is slightly difficult for him because, you know, the fullbacks that we see in football now, you know, have to be up and down. And Reece James, for me, you know, because of the physical build that he has, it is a lot harder. But in terms of the attributes that he has, the technical ability that he has, you know, I think the two best right backs in the world are him and Hakimi. And I think Hakimi's a physicality, pace merchant in this era of football, but Reece James has the quality. So for me, Reece James is certified world class. Moises Caicedo, I spoke about already, is certified world class. And then again, Cole Palmer for me is on the fringes. You know, I think Cole Palmer potentially is a world class player, but he probably has to maybe do it for another couple of seasons to be guaranteed. And again, he has suffered a couple of injuries. But I think they've definitely got Caicedo and Reece James that are world class. Enzo Fernandez is not world class for me. He's not. Again, I'd liken Enzo Fernandez as in the Declan Rice mold. You know, these guys are good Premier League players. But again, the world class conversation, you know, it's a small circle. You know, whereas in years gone by, there was loads of players that were world class, you know, or there was players that were top players that weren't even considered world class. So this I'm trying to say to you, the level is high in my opinion. And I think Enzo Fernandez for me is not, if I'm saying Declan Rice isn't world class, then I can't put Enzo Fernandez in there, you know. So yeah, Reece James, Caicedo, no doubt, are world class. And then you've got Cole Palmer, who's on the fringes. I think everyone else, not world class for me. Again, Esteval's potential, you know, but he's not world class yet for me. So that's City and Arsenal. That's Chelsea and Arsenal. Sorry, we're gonna move on to Man City. Now, Man City for me, Gianluigi Donnarumma, no doubt is a world class goalkeeper. You know, I'm not gonna touch on Donnarumma too much, but he is world class without doubt. You know, then we go on to the defense. For me, Josko Gvardiol, I rate him highly. You know, I would say Gvardiol is... No, you know what? I'm going to say Josko Gvardiol is world class. Because I was about to say he's on the fringes. But I'm going to say Gvardiol is definitely world class. Because, you know, centre-back or left-back, you know, top-class player. You know, people might say he's on the fringes. But I'm going to say... Yeah, I'm going to say either or. You know, I'll be happy to say if he's world class. Or if people want to disagree and say he's on the fringes. Ruben Diaz, I think, is on the fringes. I don't think he's world class, but he could be considered as on the fringes. Again, Rodri obviously had his injuries, but I think with Rodri, you know, before the injuries was definitely world class. You know, obviously in the mold of a Pedri, a Vitinha, the way that they can control games, you know, from deep. Again, Ballon d'Or winner as well, you know, Euros winner. But again, he's got to overcome the injuries and prove that he is still world class. But there was no doubting that he is world class for me when he was before the injury. Ryan Cherky, I liken Ryan Cherky to an Esteval or to a Cole Palmer. These guys are either on the fringes or potentially will be world class. And then I look at Erling Haaland. Now, Erling Haaland for me is a prime example because I think people will say Erling Haaland's world class, and they're only saying that because of the numbers, you know, because as an actual all-round footballer, he's not a world-class footballer, Erling Haaland, but his goal scoring puts him into conversations of world class because, again, this is the era that we're in where people just look at numbers, you know, and as an all-round footballer, for me, I will never say he's an all-round footballer, you know, and again, if you guys have watched my greats of the game, there's one that's come out today, Adriano, yeah? If anyone doesn't know who Adriano is, the Emperor, yeah, or hasn't seen him, yeah, he wasn't regarded, I don't think, back then. I don't think people were calling Adriano world class. To me, he was world class, but I don't think people were calling him world class, yeah? Go and have a look at Adriano, yeah? And go and tell me who's a better player, him or Erling Haaland. And that will tell you everything. Because if Adriano wasn't considered world-class, but Erling Haaland is, and it's only because of numbers, that's just an indication of how football is now. Because there's no one that can tell me that Erling Haaland's better than Adriano, because he's not. I watched Adriano's whole career. His whole career. The guy was an absolute, as Amo has actually said, Adriano the beast. Adriano was ridiculous, you know, and Haaland's in the conversation for world class because of his numbers, and this is why I'm trying to ask people: do you just consider people to be world class because of numbers? Because if that is the case, then Iniesta, Zidane, Ronaldinho, you know, R9, these guys are not world class in your eyes, then, because these guys didn't score the kind of numbers that Erling Haaland's hitting, and this is why, you know, it's good doing this kind of content to let people understand, you know, where I'm coming from and how they see football, you know, because as I said, man, Adriano for me is one of the best strikers that I've seen with my eyes. And as Beyblade has said, his shooting power in football games are insane. Yeah, listen, not just that, yeah, it was his dribbling, it was his aggression, his finishing, his skill, his technique. Like, as I said, if you haven't seen Adriano, I'd advise you guys to go and watch some clips, and then you will realize why Erling Haaland, for me, when people say he's world class, it is only based off of numbers. And again, this is why when people ask me is Haaland world class, not for me. If we're talking about his goal scoring, yes, he's got world-class numbers, but not world-class player. And that's where it's what I'm kind of looking at, put it that way. So again, the only certified world-class players in Man City's team for me, if we're being honest, is Gianluigi Donnarumma, Rodri before the injury, and then you've got potential in Ryan Cherky. I rate Cherky highly. And Haaland, he's not a world-class player, but has world-class numbers. And this is where you have to kind of differentiate between, are you only basing it off of numbers? Because I don't do that. Yeah. So again, out of City, Arsenal, and Chelsea, yeah, I can probably say there's 4 players at the moment that are no doubt world class in terms of the player. Reece James, Caicedo, Donnarumma, obviously he's a goalkeeper, and Rodri. And then you got a few players that are on the fringes or potential. Yeah. Then we go on to Liverpool. I know someone mentioned Van Dijk. Now, Virgil van Dijk for me, you know, over the last couple of seasons, he hasn't been the Van Dijk that many would have expected, yeah. But Van Dijk for me was world class. I think he's definitely dropped off, you know. Do I put him in the world class bracket right now? It's difficult because don't do it, Gav. I knew you'd say that, Fitz. Big up, man. Yeah, I mean, I have to be honest. Is he playing at a world class level now? No, he's not. But I would say before the last couple of seasons, he was someone that was world class. There's no doubt about it. But I think it's important to look at it now and say that his level has dropped, and I don't think people can look at Van Dijk as being world class. And I think when you look at world class as well, you can even look at it as what players get into a world 11. And I think if we're looking at Van Dijk right now, he doesn't get into a world 11 because his level has dropped for me. So again, it's difficult, but I'd say that Van Dijk's not really world class now. Alisson, I think Alisson's a world class goalkeeper, so I'd say Alisson. You know, in terms of his I mean, him in the 1v1s is very good. You know, he's crosses, he's claiming crosses as well. He's very good at. Distribution he's good at as well. So yeah, I'll say Alisson's world class. Van Dijk, as I said, I think he's just dropped off of world class for me. Mo Salah again is in the Erling Haaland conversation, and I'm glad that this is why I enjoy doing things like this. Yeah. That's why I enjoy doing things like this, because people might say, how can you not put Mo Salah and Erling Haaland in as world class? And again, I'll explain it again. This isn't about numbers, because numbers should never be a way of judging if you think a player is world class or not, because I've already explained why that should never be the case. But if I'm looking at Mo Salah, again, like Haaland, world class numbers, but not a world class footballer for me, you know. And again, you can see this season with Mo Salah, and it was always going to be the case. When the physicality drops off, yeah, the pace and the strength, you now have to rely on your footballing ability. And you can clearly see that Mo Salah's struggling because he isn't the Mo Salah that he once was. And the makeup of Mo Salah and his game was because of his physicality and his pace. Now that's gone, you know, the goals have dried up. He's now got to rely on his footballing ability. And his footballing ability isn't of the level that many think that he is. So again, he's not world class, but has world class numbers. And then you've got players like Florian Wirtz. Florian Wirtz, for me, is a top class player. And I'll put Florian Wirtz in the Ryan Cherky, the Cole Palmers. I know Wirtz hasn't had a good start to Liverpool, but he is getting better. But I think potentially Florian Wirtz will be world class. I've got no doubt about that, because he's got world class ability, you know, on the ball. But I think it'll be disingenuous to say that he's world class right now. But I think potentially he can get there. He can get there. Ekatike, potential, I would say as well. Ryan Gravenberch, I think Gravenberch is potentially world class. And that's it, really. That's it. I think you got a lot of good players. But again, the only certified world-class players I would say at Liverpool right now is probably Alisson. Because I think Van Dijk's dropped off. Salah has got world-class numbers, not the player. Wirtz's potential. Ekatike's potential. Gravenberch's potential as well. Or maybe more. Gravenberch probably could be on the fringes, you know. But I don't think there's any certified world class. Van Dijk was that, but not now. But I think Alisson's probably the only one I would say, you know. So yeah, that's my thing. Let me go through some of your chats and your comments as well, just quickly. Let's see. Enzo Fernandez from Chelsea is my favourite among the current midfielders in the Premier League. I think Enzo Fernandez is getting good numbers at the moment, but yeah, as an all-round player, I wouldn't say he's world-class, man. The world-class bracket is, as I said, man, it's a small circle, so I wouldn't say that he's in the world-class. Definitely not. In my honest opinion, I rate Timber and Ethan, though his growth has also been stunted. He has mad potential. Yeah, listen, Ethan Nwaneri is a good player, and you know, if you guys remember at the start of the summer, I was saying he'll be mad to sign a contract at Arsenal. He should go out on loan. And but again, this is what I'm trying to say to you. Like, a lot of the things that I say beforehand are not really popular at the time, but it always comes to fruition. Because I remember, if anyone remembers, Tyson Fury to come out of retirement in April, mad. Because I remember saying what Nwaneri needs to do is go out on loan, prove himself on loan. Don't sign the contract and give Arsenal a decision to make. Because the thing is, by him signing a new contract, which he did, it's like Arteta can take the piss. Because the fact that they're trying to push through Max Dowman, the fact that Madueke was bought, the fact that Saka's obviously, as they call Starboy, the fact that Eze come, you know, Odegaard's the captain, you've got Martinelli on high money, Trossard new contract. Where was Nwaneri actually going to fit in? It was never going to happen. And whoever's his advisors are should have thought to themselves, get him out on loan, don't sign the contract. And then if he does well on loan, it forces Arsenal to make a decision on him, whether they play him or he goes elsewhere. You know, and now he's gone to Marseille on loan, but that should have happened before him signing the contract because the power would have been in his hands. So it was a dumb decision, really, in my opinion, for him to sign that contract. But I do rate him. Let's see. Christian Romero. Nah, nowhere near world class. Again, good defender. Maybe people might look at him as a liability, but definitely not world class. Christian Romero. Definitely not. I hate how overrated Rice is. He's bang average to me. He only has physicality, which is why he's highly rated. This is the problem. Declan Rice, yeah, because he's got athleticism and he runs. This is why people think he's world class. It's ridiculous, really. You know, it's ridiculous because he's one of them players that just gets that just gets overrated. You know, because he's English, he runs around. You know, what's the problem, really? So who's the best right back in the world that stays fit, Gav? Best right back in the world for me, as I mentioned already, and I think I probably touched on it already, is Reece James and Hakimi. I think Reece James has the technical ability, and Hakimi is an athlete. But I think they're the best two. You know, I like Yuri and Timber as well, but if I had to pick two, it's Reece James and Hakimi for me. Look at what he's won, Gav. Yeah, listen, a lot of players win a lot of trophies. But again, the basis for, as I said, for the world-class players is a multiple of things. You know what I mean? It can be trophies won, but I think a lot of the players that are hyped is just purely based on numbers. You know, I'm from an era, as I said, that I've never recognized that numbers should only be used as a bonus. You know. City for me, Donnarumma, Rodri, O'Reilly is on the fringes. Gavardio, Cherky, I rate Harden as a striker, but he's not world class in my opinion. Yeah, I think, as I said, I think it's unfair to put Nico O'Reilly as on the fringes. I think O'Reilly's very good. You know, again, O'Reilly's actually a number 10, playing a depth at left back. But to say that O'Reilly is on the fringes of world class already, I wouldn't say that. You know, he's got a lot of work to do still. You know, if he has a couple of good seasons at Man City, then maybe that can be the argument. But I definitely wouldn't put him in world class. Rodri and Donnarumma, yeah. Gavardio, yes. Cherky, as I said, Cherky's probably on the fringes. You know, he's got world class ability, but on the fringes, I would say. And yeah, Erling Haaland for me, world class goal scorer, but not player. So yeah, as I said. No, I'm not sure I agree there, Gav. Yes, Haaland has numbers, but he's also won more or less everything from a club point of view. At his age as well. Give him his flowers, man. Big up to Ammo, 7308. But listen, I appreciate your opinion, but it's not about giving Haaland his flowers. I've given him his flowers because he scores goals and he has won trophies. But the argument for world class, yeah, and you just more or less agreed with it, yeah. You're just basing it on his numbers. Because if we're going to base it on what players have won, there's players throughout the years that have won a lot of trophies, you know, but are not considered world-class. The world-class bracket is meant to be the best players in the world in terms from a technical standpoint. It should never be based on numbers. And I look at Erling Haaland, and Erling Haaland isn't a world-class footballer. He's not. He's got world-class numbers. So again, yeah, it's not about giving him his flowers, because I'm giving him his flowers by saying he's got world-class numbers. But if we're going to throw Erling Haaland as a world-class player and then say, look at what he's won, then you could throw in a lot of other players that have won a lot of trophies as well. But as I keep saying, it's not about numbers. It should never be about numbers. It's on the eye test, as Fitz has said. So Liverpool for me, Wirtz, Ekatike, Rio has potential, and Gravenberch. And again, yeah, Rio, I've seen Rio firsthand, you know what I mean? Obviously playing against him five-a-side. And yeah, he's definitely got ability. Potential to be world-class, I think it's too early because, again, he needs to get himself in that as a regular for Liverpool, which is going to be difficult. But he's definitely got potential. But to say that's world-class, I'm only not saying it's world-class because he has to be playing regularly for Liverpool first. But Wirtz, Ekatike, and Gravenberch for me, potentially 100%. Yeah. Salah is an eyesore, but again, Salah just like Erling Haaland, yeah, I liken them two very similar. You know, both left-footed as well, both score an obscene amount of goals. In Salah's case, he did before, but these guys are not world-class players, and this is why, you know, when people throw around the world-class talk, you know, I like to delve into it a bit more because, you know, I think people are lazy to just say these players are world-class because they're scoring numbers. Because they're getting numbers, you know, so. Since we're on current world-class type players, current World 11, Gav. Current World 11. Before I get on to that, are you an Arsenal fan? Nope, I'm a Man United fan. So, current world-class type players, current World 11. Again, that's going to give it away, Fitz, because I'm going to go through all the other teams. But yeah, I'll get on to that in a minute, yeah, because I'm going to go through all the other leagues and other teams as well to differentiate their world-class players. So I've done Chelsea, I've done Arsenal, I've done Liverpool, I've done Man City. Manchester United, my team. Do we have any world-class players there? I think you've got Matthias de Ligt, potentially, or on the fringe. No. Matthias de Ligt on the fringes. Who else we got? Again, Casemiro was world class. He was world class, but I probably put Casemiro a bit like Van Dijk in a sense where these guys were world class, maybe have dropped off a little bit, you know, even though Casemiro's playing very good now. And then you've got players for me that are potential, the likes of Amad Diallo, Cunha, probably you can say is on the fringes. I think Joshua Zirkzee potential. I know people in there probably going to try and say Bruno Fernandes, nowhere near world class. And again, he's just like Erling Haaland and Mo Salah. These guys are not world class players, but they have world class numbers. So yeah, man. Man United don't have any certified world class players for me. We have players that are either potential or on the fringes. Tottenham, Mickey van der Ven's probably the only one I look at for Tottenham that I would say is either on the fringes or potentially world class. Oh, sorry, Kobe. How can I forget? Yeah, Kobe's in that bracket as well. You know, I'll throw Kobe into the potential, 100%. You know, big up to Mike. Yeah, I forgot about Kobe. He's definitely in the potential list. Tottenham have Van der Ven for me, who I think's potential to be world class or on the fringes. You know, and I mean Aston Villa. There's no one that's world class for me for Aston Villa. You know, they got players that are either potential or fringes. You know, but again, so just going to the Premier League, yeah, because there's no point going through all the other teams because none of them are world class. So again, the only certified players in the Premier League for me that are world class is Reece James, Moises Caicedo, Alisson, Donnarumma, Rodri, and then probably Gabriel, probably, if we're pushing it. So I would say there's 7 players, you know. In actual fact, I'm not gonna say Gabriel because if you're gonna say Gabriel, then you have to put the Ligt in there. So I'm gonna say for me, there's probably 5 or 6 players that are certified world class players in the Premier League, in my opinion. In my opinion, so and there's players that are on the fringes or potential. So then we move on to Germany. I think Germany's a quick one because Germany, for me, have maybe 3 or 4 that are world class, and they all come from the same team in Bayern Munich. Because I don't think there's any players in the other teams that are world class. You know, you might have some that are potential, but the certified world class players for me are Harry Kane, Michael Olise. I mean, Manuel Neuer was world class, but again, as he's getting on, he's probably dropped off a little bit. Same in the mold of Casemiro and what's his name? Virgil van Dijk. Joshua Kimmich, you could probably throw in there as well. And then obviously Musiala's potential, but he's been injured. But for me, the certified world-class players for Bayern Munich, that there's no debate for me, is Harry Kane and Michael Olise. And I think the rest of the players there are either potential or on the fringes, you know. And then we move on to the Italian league. For me, I don't think there's any certified world-class players in the Italian league for me. I think there's probably either potential or fringes. I look at Bastoni, you know, from Inter Milan. He's probably on the fringes of world-class. The same with probably Nico Barella. I don't think Lautaro is. Napoli, not for me, no one there. AC Milan, Not for me. So yeah, it's Italy don't really. I think Italy have Bastoni and Barella that are probably the only considered ones for me. That could be on the fringes of world class. Again, if there's any other players that you guys can think of, then let me know, and we'll discuss it. But going on to Spain, if we go to Barca Madrid, now Barcelona for me, the world class players certified. Obviously, we touched on Pedri already. Lamine Yamal's world class, no doubt about that. Frankie De Jong for me is world class. Lewandowski was world class, but I put Keenan Yildiz, big up to Broderick, big up to Mike, big up to Ammo as well. Yeah, Keenan Yildiz is potential for me. I wouldn't say he's world class now, but he's potential. So yeah, Yamal's world class. Frankie De Jong, Pedri's world class. Lewandowski was world class, but I put him in the Van Dijk, the Manuel Neuers, and the Casemiro bracket. Rafinha is difficult because I put Rafinha on the fringes. I think he's on the fringes. Ronald Araujo, I rate highly. Obviously, he's very injury prone, but I'd put him probably on the fringes. And then you got Pau Kabasi, Alejandro Balde. These guys are potential. And that's it really, yeah, from Barcelona. Then we got into Real Madrid. Now, I know there might be a few tears in there, yeah, but so be it, yeah? And I'm just going to start it off right now. I don't want to hear no one tell me Jude Bellingham is world class, because he's not. You know, Jude Bellingham is not even better for me than Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Like, you compare Jude Bellingham's ability to Loftus-Cheek. Loftus-Cheek is more talented than him, you know? And if people want to start saying, look at Jude Bellingham's numbers, again, I've already explained this. He only got numbers because of where he was playing in a system that was allowing him to thrive. But now they've got Mbappe there as a striker. His numbers have dried up. It's that simple. So I don't want to hear no one talking about Jude Bellingham because he's not world class. Camavinga. Again, Camavinga for me is world class. But if people say he's not at the moment, it's because of it's because of his injury record. But if Camavinga starts playing regularly, that's a world class player there, no doubt. And he's someone, if you guys have been watching the channel for any amount of time, he's the #1 midfielder that I would love Man United to sign. You know, and I'm hoping, you know, I want Baleba to come to the club, but I'm hoping if we could get Camavinga, then I'll tell you now, man, you're not going to see a happier fan than me, because Camavinga's overrated. No way. Big up to Broderick. No way is he overrated. No way is he overrated. I don't know how people can say he's overrated, really. I mean, I'm not sure what that's based off, but yeah, he's nowhere near overrated. No way, man. He's one of the best midfielders if he can prove his fitness in the world, no doubt. But for me, Real Madrid's world-class players are Valverde. Rudiger was there, but I think Rudiger's probably a bit in the Van Dijk camp. Maybe has dropped off a bit with the injury. But the certified world classes for me are Thibaut Courtois, Valverde, Camavinga, if he can prove his fitness. I'll put him in the Rodri mold right now. Mbappe has to be there as well. Vinicius Jr. And that's it. Oh, and Rodrigo. Yeah, and Rodrigo. And then you've got potential in Arda Güler. I think else there is Arda Güler. Yeah, that's it. And then you might have players on the fringes like Chouameni, you know, and a few others, you know. But the certified world-class players in their team, you'd have to say Mbappe. You know, I know Mbappe. Obviously, I know people might say his numbers, but as an all-round player, for me, he's a better all-round player than Haaland. He is. But yeah, you have to put Mbappe in there. Vinicius Jr. will be in there. And as I said, Camavinga for me. Obviously in the Rodri mold in terms of the injuries. And then you've got Valverde as well and Courtois. So yeah, definitely for me. Atletico Madrid, I think Julian Alvarez. I think Julian Alvarez will be on the fringes for me. You know, I wouldn't even complain if people think he's world class, but I'd put him on the fringes. Anton Griezmann was world class, but again, you know, he's obviously getting on a bit now. And that's it in the league. So again, let's go through, and then obviously we go to France. Forgot about France. So the world class players in PSG, because I think Marseille have one potential world class player, and that is Mason Greenwood. I think Greenwood's definitely going to be world class. I'll put him in the potential or on the fringes. And then PSG have Hakimi, Nuno Mendes. I think Marquinhos and William Pacho, I think they're on the fringes. But Nuno Mendes and Hakimi are certified for me. Vitinha, we've spoken about already. I think João Neves is probably potential. Fabian Ruiz, for me, is a top-class player on the fringes. Ousmane Dembele is world-class for me. Kvaratskhelia is, I'm going to say world-class. Yeah, he could be on the fringes, but I'm going to say world-class. And then you got Desiree Doué is potential. Yeah, that's it for me. So, and then again, that's everyone I've been through from all the top leagues in Europe. So let's go through the numbers. So we've got, so again, we got certified world-class players. Reece James, Caicedo, Thibaut Courtois, Donnarumma, Rodri, Alisson, trying to think what else there is. That's five. So 5 players from the Premier League. Yeah. Then we've got from Germany, Harry Kane, 6, Elise, 7. If you want to throw Joshua Kimmich in there, I'll say 8 that are certified world class. Then we go on to Italy. There's no one. France, you've got Hakimi, 9. Nuno Mendes, 10. Vitinha, 11. Dembele, 12. Kvaratskhelia, 13. Going to Barcelona, Pedri, 14. Yamal, 15. Frankie de Jong, 16. Real Madrid, Valverde, 17. Camavinga, 18. Rodrigo, 19. Vinicius Jr., 21. Mbappe, 22. So for me, you know, I would say there's 22 players that are probably certified world-class players in this era of football, which, again, isn't a lot. It's not a lot of players, is it, compared to players of the past? Guys, let me know what you think. I'm going for 22 that are certified world-class players. And again, it's not based on numbers. Yeah, Luka Modric is a bad boy, but again, because Modric is 38, I'm not really putting him into that bracket, you know, because again, this isn't the Luka Modric that was at Real Madrid, but he was certified world-class player. Haaland is not in there because, as I said earlier, this isn't based on numbers, which is why there's no Salah as well. So it can't be based on numbers. Like I'm talking about the pure footballers, an actual top footballer. And I've gone with 22 players that, in my opinion, that are certified world-class players. You know, but let me know if you think there's more than 22, or let me know what players you think should be in there. I'm going to go through some of your comments, but keep your comments and questions coming in. Let's see. Tyson Fury has retired and returned more times than Terry Funk at this point. Yeah, big up Fitz, man. Big up. Yeah, do you know what? Big up to Fitz as well, yeah? Prime example, yeah? I've just seen it. So Wes Brown won 2 Champions Leagues, 7 Premier Leagues, 2 FA Cups, 3 League Cups. He isn't even close to be considered world class. Haaland's trophies don't mean anything to the discussion. And you know what? That is perfectly put, because when people want to use trophies won and then try and say that, well, basically when people want to use the case for Haaland, yeah, saying that he's won trophies and he's got the numbers, I'll reiterate again. You don't get to become world class because of numbers. It's never been like that. Because as I said, if we're gonna say that Haaland's world class because of his numbers, then why are we saying Zidane, Iniesta, and these kind of players are world class? Because Haaland had better numbers than both of them. But so that doesn't make any sense. Wes Brown won all that, and as Fitz has said, there's no one in this chat that will say Wes Brown was world class, because he wasn't. So Haaland can't be in there because of trophies won, because you can put any other players in there. The facts are, it's the player, overall player. And Haaland shouldn't get in there because of numbers, just like Mo Salah. What UEFA game are you watching today? I'm not too sure, man. I don't think I'll have time to watch it, if I'm honest, because I might be out. But obviously it's the last games of the Champions Leagues today. I think PSG and Newcastle would be a good game. But yeah, no, I'm not sure if I'm gonna have any time to watch the games, unfortunately. Rodri is the only world-class player in England. I hear it. I disagree. I've said 5 players, but to think that there's only 5 players that are world-class in the Premier League for a league that we're meant to believe is the best league in the world, it just shows you. You know, Reece James, Caicedo, Alisson, Donnarumma, who are keepers. That's 4. Rodri 5. Maybe Gavardio I'll put in there as well. So 6 players, I would say, are undoubtedly world-class players in the Premier League for me. You know, I mean, people might put Gabriel in there. Again, I think he's probably on the fringes. So, yeah, I'm going to say 6 players. Xavi Simons was one of the most sought-out attacking midfielders in Europe at one point. Tottenham's squad is just letting him down because they are shit. Yeah, listen, Xavi Simons, you know, obviously from La Masia, Barcelona, obviously was at PSG as well. You know, obviously made his name really, you would say, at Leipzig. I think Xavi Simons is a good player, but yeah, I've never rated Xavi Simons as being this top-class player. You know, I just think he's a good player. You know, maybe he's being let down by Tottenham, but I don't think he's going to be like a world-class player. I don't think that at all, you know. Yeah, listen, Kenan Yildiz is a very good player. Very good player. But again, he's not world-class. He's potential. You know, I put Kenan Yildiz in the bracket of Ryan Cherky. You know, these guys are, and Mason Greenwood. These guys are on the fringes or potential. You know, I think that's fair to say. Valverde is the best at Madrid. I hear it. He's definitely one of them. Definitely one of them. And again, if you remember that Valverde was complaining when Xabi Alonso was there because he's playing right back. And you can't really blame him. Valverde playing right back so, you know, they could hype up Trent Alexander-Arnold is madness. So, yeah, I can hear why he wasn't too happy. I think everyone can see that. Be Up to Cloud9 says, hi, first time watching. You are talking about football. 100%, man. Yeah, football channel. Big up. Guys, make sure you're smashing the likes as well. Make sure you're subbing to the channel. Valverde is the South American rice. Nah, man, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I know. Big up Broderick, yeah, but nah, listen, Valverde has the energy and the drive like Rice does, but Valverde is a highly technical player as well. Don't be fooled, man. Don't be fooled by the athleticism. You know, he's a very good footballer, Valverde as well. You know, but to say he's a South American Rice, nah, that's just going overboard, man. Valverde, you can play him anywhere in the midfield, 6, 8, 10, and he'll be the best in that position. I hear it, but Valverde for me is a number 8. You know, he's a box-to-box midfielder. And the fact that Valverde has to play right back to accommodate to accommodate Jude Bellingham, it's an absolute joke to football, let's be honest. You know? And don't think Valverde doesn't think that. Because basically what it is, yeah, Valverde's versatility is working against him. Because the fact that they've got injuries to Carvajal and to Alexander-Arnold as well, and Valverde can play right back, it's the easy decision to put him at right back. But the fact that he's playing right back and you've got Trent and you've got Jude Bellingham stinking it out in midfield, don't think Valverde is not aware of that. You know what I mean? Because Valverde knows he's better than Bellingham. You know? Mason Greenwood is world class. Yeah, but again, I don't want to throw in the world class talk too quick, you know? And there's no doubt in my mind that Mason Greenwood is going to be world class. There's no doubt. But I would say, to be fair, he's on the fringes. I'm not going to say he's certified, but he's definitely on the fringes. And he's going to be world class anyway. So there's no doubt about that. Yeah, I like Patro. Patro's good. I like him as well. Big up to Miss Bunny too, says, Reece James for me is debatable because world class means consistent and his injuries don't make him very consistent. I hear that. I do hear that. And big up yourself for your comment. But what I would say, Reece James has been injury free right now. You know, and when we're saying consistent, is it consistent performances or consistent numbers? Because performances for me have to be the measuring stick over numbers. That's a fact. Because numbers are not sustainable. Because 1 minute you get someone that's scoring 20 goals, the next minute they're scoring 6. You know, people were saying Gyökeres was up there because Gyökeres scored an obscene amount of goals for Sporting Lisbon. And now he's barely got 5 in the Premier League. So when you're saying consistency, I 100% agree with that. And Reece James is very consistent, you know. And again, he hasn't been injured for a little while now. So, and his ability is there for all to see. So I'll definitely put him in the world-class bracket. What do you think of Igor Thiago? Big up Karen Kumar. What do I think of Igor Thiago? I think he's going to the World Cup. And I said this at the very start, yeah? I said, watch out for Igor Thiago. And guys, also watch out for Igor Jesus at Nottingham Forest, yeah? When we're in an era of not too many great strikers or good strikers, yeah? That Igor Jesus, if Nottingham Forest was to get relegated, don't be surprised if someone signs Igor Jesus. Because I'm not saying he's like a world-class player in the making, but he's got something that a lot of the other teams in this league can do with. And I think him and Igor Thiago, I mean, Igor Thiago for me, the fact that he's 4 goals behind Haaland in the goal scoring charts this season, you know, and Brazil have a lot of players to choose from. But what it is, Brazil don't have a lot of central strikers to choose from. Because João Pedro for me is a 10, but he's in contention. Richarlison's out injured. And again, after them two, what other central strikers are you looking at? I mean, Endrick, he's scoring goals for Lyon, and he's got himself back in the conversation. But don't discount Igor Thiago. Igor Thiago, I think, goes to the World Cup. And as I said, man, he could be a threat for them in the World Cup. And again, Igor Jesus, don't be surprised if someone signs Igor Jesus if Forest get relegated. Because that goal we scored the other day, it wasn't just the finish, but it was the hold-up play. It was the touch, you know. And he's definitely got something, Igor Jesus, man. I can see someone definitely signing him. A debate is, though, are them trophies won without Haaland's numbers? Great question. What I would say on that one, Karen, yeah, is that if you look at Erling Haaland, yeah, Erling Haaland's a goal scorer and he will always score goals. But there's no doubt, yeah, that he's in a team with creators. The team's full of creators and he's the one goal scorer. So he's always going to get goals because he's the main source of goals for Man City. Now, what I would say is that Man City have shown already that they can win a Premier League by playing a false nine. So it shows you that Erling Haaland's numbers are good, but it's not the be all and end all for a team. Because if you've got a system in play that allows, your striker to thrive or allows the team to score goals from multiple areas of the team, then that's how it works. If Man City had goal scoring wide players out there and a facilitator as a number nine, a false nine, then again, Erling Haaland's numbers won't be that crucial. This is what I'm trying to say to you. This is where people need to understand. Because you've got a number nine striker that scores an obscene amount of goals, that doesn't mean that his goals were crucial in the sense of them winning those trophies. Because if Erling Haaland wasn't there, then they would have had a different player that could have facilitated the attack, and maybe you would have got goals from out wide or got it from elsewhere, because that's how football works. You know what I mean? So to answer that question, would they have won the trophies without Haaland's numbers? I think they would have, yeah. Because, again, Haaland's numbers not being there, they probably would have got goals from elsewhere or had a different player in the attack that would have provided a different kind of source of goals. So that's the answer, man. Safe to say you can't put Arsenal's players in for trophies won or numbers. Hell no. Hell no. Hell no. But listen, they've got it all to do, man. Starting with the game against Leeds on Saturday. Oh, sorry, they got Kairat Almaty tonight. And what's going to probably happen? They'll probably smoke Kairat Almaty probably 7 or 8-0. And then the fan base will be back to where they was, chatting rubbish again. And then it comes to Leeds and they get humbled. You know what I mean? So, is what it is. Kama and Valverde are not world-class based on your criteria. But again, the criteria is footballers. So they are world-class. So the criteria is footballers. It's not numbers. That's what I'm trying to tell you. As footballers, they are top-class footballers. So the criteria isn't numbers. The criteria is the overall footballer. And no one can tell me that Camavinga and Valverde, overall as footballers, are not top footballers, or not world-class footballers, because they are. So that's the criteria. But big up, man. Gav, I think I'm starting in my game again this weekend. I've got a goal of 6 saves at least. What do you think I should be working on? Positioning as a goalkeeper. Knowing your angles. That's a good start. Command of your box. And composure on the ball. Like, I'm not sure how your team play, but, the way football's gone now, especially with keepers, you need to be good with your feet. So, again, practicing on your touch, practicing on your technique goes a long way. But in terms of an actual goalkeeper, because I think a lot of goalkeepers in this era of football, they're all good shot stoppers. But I think what separates the best goalkeepers is the concentration, and knowing your angles, knowing where to be, if certain players are going to shoot from certain angles, because, that goes half the way to nullifying the threat. And again, command of the box, especially in England, a lot of corners, a lot of set pieces. This is why the likes of Donnarumma, Alisson, and even what Senne Lamen showed the other day, having a command of your box, knowing when to catch the ball, knowing when to punch the ball, goes a long way. So, yeah, that's what I think you should work on, man. Touch, technique, ball at your feet, and knowing your angles in goal. That's the main thing. Big up to Gung Sanji, says, big win at the Emirates. Yeah, but listen, who would have known? Who would have known? I think you was a bit nervous coming into the game, man, but I told you we was going to win. I told you, man. Whoever said Gyökeres is world-class needs jail time. Boy, Big up to Mike, man. I'll go one further than that, man. Then he's sectioning. Because Gyökeres world class. Yeah. And again, this is what people are doing, yeah? He's getting involved in conversations, Gyökeres, because of numbers. You know what I'm trying to say? It doesn't make any sense, man. How can he be world class? How can he be world class? Like, he's got no world class ability, just numbers in a league where it's poor. You know what I mean? So, yeah, let's not. Do you think Justin Kluivert is a world class player? No, he's not world class, Justin Kluivert. He's a very good player, to be fair, and I think he can play for, with no disrespect, a team that's better than Bournemouth. But he's not world class. As I said, like, we can't just be throwing around the world class tag, man, because for me it's unfair, you know, because there's not. I said I've named 22 players that are world class from all the major leagues in Europe, you know. Jesus at Forest has got a lot of potential. Yeah, he has. I said it already. Like, I'm telling you, man, Igor Jesus, people need to keep an eye on him, you know, because what he's doing at Nottingham Forest, you know, again, this is about having an eye for potential or for a player. You know, I'm not saying that Igor Jesus is the next R9, but what I will tell you, in the era of not too many strikers, you know, he could be someone that a lot of teams take a gamble on, because to play for a team that's at the bottom, I think they're like, what, third from bottom, I believe, Nottingham Forest. And to be fair, some of the hold-up play he's been doing, the goal he scored the other day against Brentford, you know, battling up against his compatriot in Igor Thiago. Yeah, listen, I think a lot of teams might take a punt on him. You know, he's next. If you're looking at the Premier League, yeah, I will go as far and say a team like Aston Villa, you know, if they was to, I don't know, move on Ollie Watkins, let's say, you know, they should be looking at a player like Igor Jesus, because I think Jesus can occupy the same role that Ollie Watkins does. And again, if you look at the fact that they've signed Tammy Abraham, you know, you look at Igor Jesus, he can run the channels, he can hold the ball up, you know, and I think in a better team, he can probably get goals as well. Very similar to what Ollie Watkins is doing. So, yeah, as I said, man, keep an eye on Igor Jesus. Yep, Samuel Omorodion for Porto. Definitely not world class, but he's another striker that might be on the move. Spanish striker. Yep. Off topic, but is there an argument that Casemiro is the best Brazilian to ever play in the Premier League, considering what he won at Real Madrid? I mean, to be honest with you, that's not even a bad shout. Like, to be honest with you, with Casemiro, yeah, Casemiro's criminally underrated in this country. And again, it's because this whole nonsense about his legs are gone, without actually understanding that you put any midfielder in that team under Ruben Amorim, they're going to be shit, because there's too many gaps in midfield in a league where it's very much based on physicality and running. And if you look at Casemiro's career, he has never been that player, not to mention the guy's getting older as well. So look at all the Brazilians in this league, for instance, yeah? Coutinho. I mean, how far back do you want to go? Do you want to go back to Juninho from Middlesbrough? Emerson, Middlesbrough, you know? Robinho. Joe. If anyone remembers Joe, left-footed Joe. Elano, you know? There's been loads of Brazilians in this league, but in comparison to what he's won, again, it depends what you're basing it off. What you're basing Casemiro off. Because there's no doubt for me that, you know, he's one of the best midfielders of his generation, easily. Easily, you know what I mean? But yeah, if you reckon he's the best midfielder to play in the Premier League, that Brazilian player to play in the Premier League, then yeah, probably he might be. But again, I'll need to have a list in front of me to see. And it depends what we're actually debating it on as well. Football isn't built on ifs, Gav. There's no way City do what they do without Haaland leading their attack. Yeah, but you don't know that. No one's ever gonna know that. Because as I keep saying, yeah, you're looking at Haaland's numbers, yeah. But how football works, yeah, is that if they never signed Erling Haaland, they probably would have signed a wide player that gets goals from out wide. And then the central striker, yeah, wouldn't have been a goal scorer. He could have been a false nine. Again, you need to understand. People need to understand, yeah. It's not all about a goal score, a number 9 scoring goals. It's not. It's never been about that. It's not. You know, it's about having a balance in attack. The fact that Erling Haaland is there as the main source of goals, again, there's no surprise it works for him because the whole of the other team are all creators. If you had a team full of goal scorers, yeah, do you think that team does well? Because it wouldn't. Because football doesn't work where you've just got loads of goal scorers in a team and people just think it's all going to come together. Because you have to look at who's going to create that goal. Who's going to sacrifice themselves so others get goals. That is how football works. Yeah, so to say that City wouldn't do what they would have done without Haaland, you're never going to know that. The fact that Haaland's in there and the rest of the team are all creators is why it works, because it's about a balance. That's what I'm trying to say to you. You know, you look at the attackers that that City have, you know, that are creators. Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, Riyad Mahrez was a hybrid, goal scorer and a creator. You know, Foden in there. Cherky's there now. You know, even Doku, who's a winger, he's a creator more than a goal scorer. You know, so again, you need to have a balance. So we're never going to know if City would have done what they've done without Haaland. But what you need to remember is that City were winning trophies before Haaland came to the club. So that answers the question, you know. Yo, Gav, I think today's game lacks proper world-class players. The game changed too much and less about talent. All system-based and players are athletes/robots. 100%, man. Big up to the Joker. And Joker, again, man, if you haven't seen the stream from the start, when the stream finishes, man, watch it from the start and you'll see what I've discussed. Because exactly what you just said there is more or less what I'm saying. You know, and yeah, exactly, man. This is part of the problem at football. You know, it's very robotic. You know, and this is why when people think that the likes of a Bukayo Saka is world class, it's laughable. You know, when I said that, you know, Jared Bowen, you know, is arguably better than Bukayo Saka, people will laugh. But you're only laughing because Saka's at Arsenal and Bowen's at West Ham. But do you think Saka can do what Bowen's doing at West Ham? Hell no. There's no way that Saka could do what Bowen's doing at West Ham. Saka's in a system at Arsenal that is catered for him. And to show for that, he's got 4 goals and 4 assists. So there's no way that Saka can go and do what Bowen's doing at West Ham. Impossible. Big up to Mick Moore. Big up. Big up to Foxy Danny as well. Guys, make sure we're smashing these likes. Make sure we're subbing to the channel. Make sure we share the channel. Big up to Babs One Diva as well, each and every time. The only certified world-class players in the modern game is Yamal, Pedri, Vitinha, James and Mendes. Exactly. Exactly. Plus a few others. You know? Robinho was a bad boy. He was. Again, just mentioning Robinho, yeah? Robinho wasn't someone, yeah, that was genuinely considered like as outright world-class. But he was. He had world-class ability, Robinho. But when I'm hearing people say, and this is how funny it is, yeah? So when you hear people say Declan Rice or Saka are world-class, but yet Robinho, many probably would have said is on the fringes of world-class or wasn't certified, it's a prime example of where the game's gone. You see what I mean? Because you can't be saying that Robinho wasn't world-class, but Rice and Saka are. It makes no sense. You know what I mean? Or Erling Haaland is because of numbers. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Start, bench, sell. Pedri, Vitinha or Bruno. Big up to Gung Sanji. But the fact that you're putting in Bruno, yeah, in the conversation with Pedri and Vitinha is laughable. But this one's not really hard to do, you know. So for me, I'd start Pedri, I'd bench Vitinha, and then you have to sell Bruno Fernandes. Like, that's probably one of the easiest ones in terms of sell, because you can't put Bruno and Vitinha and Pedri in the same conversation. Like, Bruno shouldn't be in a convo with them kind of players there. It's ridiculous. If you're gonna say Bruno, put him in the conversation with Jude Bellingham and as Scott McTominay, for instance. Like, put him in that kind of conversation, but not with Pedri and Vitinha. Disrespectful. Big up to Football Reactions. Says, start Bruno, bench Vitinha, and sell Pedri. For me, a lot of people will disagree, but my opinion. And you know what? It's your opinion, man. It's delusion. But listen, it's your opinion, man. And if that's what you believe, if you believe that Bruno should start ahead of Vitinha and sell Pedri, then that's your opinion. I mean, I'm not sure what you're smoking, but listen, it's your opinion, man. It is what it is. Yeah, Dorgu's out for the season, man. Yeah, madness, isn't it? Absolute madness. It's crazy, man. It's crazy, but it's football for you, though, isn't it? It's football for you, man. Guy was getting into some serious form, and now is obviously an injury. Will you guys dip into the market for cover? No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because the only place I can see us signing is a midfielder, central midfielder. But because Dorgu lately has been playing as a winger, you've got the likes of Cunha that can play there, or if he wants to probably throw Mason Mount there, you know what I mean? So yeah, I can't. We're not going to dip into the market for a wide player. But again, I would like to see him playing. I would like to see him playing as a left back in the future. For me, you know. Football Reaction says, I rate Dorgu. Yeah, listen, Dorgu, man, he's Dorgu's he's been playing very well, man. He's got potential. Start, bench, or sell. Yapstam, Nesta, or Cannavaro. See, these are the kind of ones I like here, because they're difficult, and selling either one of these players is hard to do, yeah? But for me, I would start Yapstam, and no bias, and there's no bias here. I'll start Yapstam. I would bench Nesta and sell Cannavaro. But again, I wouldn't even blame anyone that has that the other way around. But for me, I'll start Yapstam, bench Nesta, and sell Cannavaro. Zola, Ginola, Di Canio, Cantona, Janino, Okocha. Just a few players that have world-class talent but never got there. Flowers on world stage, man. Big up to Joker. And Joker, make sure, yeah, that you actually, make sure you put that in the comments after the stream has ended. Because if anyone hasn't seen, yeah, I'm doing a greats of the game. You know, I've done 8 players, you know, and what I do, I just speak about the ability of these players, the effect that these players had when I watched them. And I go through the numbers as well. So, and I think it's important to go through the stats, because, you know, there's too much time we hear about players' numbers and that all the time. So again, make sure you guys give that a watch. You know, it's only 10 minutes on each, where I just discuss certain players. So the players I've done so far are R9, the real Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Zidane, Francesco Totti, Alessandro Del Piero. I think Adriano come out today. And I've got a couple, I've got one more coming out, I think, later today. Pavel Nedved as well. And I've done a couple today as well, which will be coming out tomorrow. So yeah, man. It's good to remember these kind of players. So yeah, make sure you guys give that a watch as well. I honestly think we need a lone midfielder in the first of one injury, and we are, yeah. Yeah, listen. What I would say, yeah, is if we was to get a midfielder in this window, then yeah. But we've got one game a week. You know what I mean? So if you're looking at Kobe, Casemiro, and Yagati, who I don't rate, to the end of the season, it isn't the worst, I would say. But if we could get a midfielder, you know, of quality, I would say, then fair enough, innit? But I don't think it's as much as an issue as what many people think it is, because we've got one game a week. You know what I mean? We've only got the Premier League to focus on. If we had cup games and Europe to focus on, then it's a must. But we got one game a week. And between Casemiro, Kobe, and even a Yagati, yeah, and even if you wanted to, I don't know, throw a Mason Mount in there if you wanted to, which I don't really think you should, then it isn't the end of the world. But yeah, we'll see what happens, innit? Gav, how do you think I can grow my channel? Big up to Football Reactions. Listen, it's about consistency. You know, it's about showing up every day, even on the days that you don't want to show up. You know, there's days that, you know, I might think to myself, you know what, I could really do with a rest today, but the fact that I love doing this, I love interacting with you guys as well. You know, for me, I find this easy. Like, I find it easy just jumping on the camera, discussing football, because it's my passion, you know what I mean? But what I would say, for you to grow, and it's not easy, you know, it's not meant to be easy. You have to keep showing up every day, putting in the hard work, you know, and just get more confident in front of a camera, know what you're talking about. You know, whenever I come onto camera, you know, whenever I discuss certain things, I never just pluck these things out from thin air. You know, I have a vast array of, you know, experience in football, from playing, from watching, from coaching. You know, so whenever I say things, you know, whether people agree with it or not, you know, it's my genuine opinion, you know, and I can always back up what I say as well. So, but yeah, that's one of the main things. Is just getting up every single day, turning up when you don't want to, and just providing content that, you know, that your fans or people might want to see. You know, even if you're getting low views or whatever, you still have to have the drive and determination to keep showing up. You know, and then things will happen, man. That's literally what it is. There's no secret to it, man. You don't put the work in, it's not gonna grow. It's that simple. And as I say, man, yeah, just keep the belief, man, and just keep showing up. That's all I would say, you know. Yeah, stay consistent. There you go. Yeah, big up Fitz, man. Big up. So yeah, guys, I've done R9, I've done Dino, I've done Totti, I've done Zidane, Nedved, Del Piero, and Adriano. So I've got someone else coming out today. I can't remember who it is though. Oh, okay, yeah. I ain't gonna spoil it, but there's one coming out later today. I believe at 5 o'clock. And then I've got another two coming out tomorrow. So again, I'm not gonna spoil it, but again, just keep an eye on it when it does come out. And if you guys want me to do any other players, as I said, make sure you drop that in the comments afterwards, and I'll add that to the list. In their prime, start, bench, or sell. So, do you know what? I love these ones. It's difficult. And again, I'm going to shock people, yeah? I'm going to shock people. So I would start Robbie Fowler. I would bench Andy Cole. And I would sell Ian Wright. So yeah, I would start Robbie Fowler, bench Andy Cole, sell Ian Wright for me. R9, Adriano, Robinho. Well, to be honest with you, you can't do them three, because R9 and Adriano are strikers. Robinho's a left winger. So we can't really do that one. If we're doing identical for position, then it's a lot easier. My thing is, we need cover for Kobe because he gets knocks during training sometimes. Yeah, listen, I hear it, Mike. And as I said, if you want to bring in a midfielder, if they want to bring in a midfielder for cover, then yeah, listen, I hear it, man. But I'm just saying, we've got one game a week and 3 players for that midfield position, maybe 4. I don't think we should really be going overboard saying we must get someone. Like when we got one game a week. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, if we get someone, then so be it. Start, bench, sell. Cantona, Bergkamp, Baggio. You know what? I hate these ones. But you got to be brave, man. You got to be brave. I'm going to say... It's difficult, man. And again, no bias aside, yeah? I'm going to say start Cantona. And reason I'm saying I'm debating between Bergkamp and Baggio, because I think Bergkamp and Baggio are probably a bit more... Actually, no, they're not. Oh, I hate this one. Because I was going to say, in actual fact, yeah, because Baggio and Cantona, I deem them two as mavericks. They're both quite similar in terms of mavericks. So if you've got two mavericks, one of them has to miss out for me. So I'm going to say start Bergkamp. Start Bergkamp, bench Cantona, sell Baggio. That's a difficult one, though. And the reason I'm saying start Bergkamp is because I think Cantona and Baggio are very similar, whereas Bergkamp's the anomaly. So if you're the anomaly, Bergkamp will have to start for me. And then it's a toss of a coin between Cantona and Baggio. So I'll probably say Cantona, bench, Baggio to sell. But guys, Baggio's on my list. Baggio was a bad boy, you know. Again, a lot of the players on my list, you know, quite a few of them are from Italy. Because Italian football back then was an absolute joke. I'm telling you, go Lazio, if any of you guys remember. Yeah? Yeah, Mike, listen, if we can sell Ugarte in this window, which I don't think is going to happen, then 100% we have to get a midfielder in. But I think Ugarte goes at the end of the season. I don't think he goes in this window. Start Cole, bench Fowler, sell Wright. Nah, Fitz, man, you've lost your mind. Listen, I can't bench Robbie Fowler, man. Robbie Fowler was ridiculous. Robbie Fowler weren't English, man. He was foreign to me, the way he used to play. So I'd have to start Fowler, man, and put Coley on the bench. Yeah, have to. Pirlo, Scholes, or Modric. Start, bench, sell. Again, this is difficult, yeah? I would start... I hate these ones, man. I'd probably start... this is difficult, man. I would start Scholes, bench Pirlo, and sell Modric. But even that, I don't think I've even got that spot on, man. It's difficult. It's difficult, man. It's difficult. I hate these ones. Nah, Fitz, listen, I hear it, my guy, man. But listen, I can't start Coley over Fowler, man. Fowler was ridiculous. He was ridiculous, Fowler, man. One of my favourite strikers for in England. That left foot was ridiculous. I remember when Fowler destroyed us at Old Trafford, when Liverpool wore that green and white kit. When Fowler had the blonde hair, man. Like, he was ridiculous, Robbie Fowler. Yeah, it's got to be Fowler for me over Andy Cole, man. Andy Cole was a bad boy, but yeah, it's got to be Fowler for me, man. Start, bench, sell. Batistuta, Adriano, Zlatan. Yeah, listen, this is ridiculous, man. For me, I will start Adriano, bench Zlatan, sell Batistuta. And again, Fitz, Batistuta's coming out tomorrow, man. He's one I done today. He's coming out tomorrow. But that's difficult, them ones. I hate these ones. Salah, Suarez, or Torres. So I will start Suarez, bench Torres, sell Salah. That's easy. That's an easy one. That's an easy one. Start Suarez, bench Torres, and sell Salah. And the reason I do it in that order, yeah, is because the bench person is important because I'm looking at what player can make an impact. And I think Torres with his pace off the bench, he can make an impact for me. And then obviously Salah would probably command the money and wouldn't make much of an impact on Torres. And then Suarez is the best player out of all three of them for me. So that's how I kind of do it. Yeah, listen, man. Batter Shooter's coming out tomorrow, man. It's coming out tomorrow. It'll be coming out tomorrow morning. Start, bench, or sell. Seedorf, Makelele, or Keane. So this one's difficult because Makelele was a DM and Seedorf and Keane were more central midfielders, attacking midfielders in a sense, in Seedorf's case. So if you're looking at someone that's going to hold the shape of the team, I would have to start Makelele. I would have to bench Seedorf and then sell Roy Keane. Pele, Dida, or Anthony? Well, Pele's a striker, Dida's a goalkeeper, and Anthony's a wide player. So I don't know how we can do that. I don't get that one. Right, guys. Anyway, we're gonna wrap it up anyway. Guys, big up yourselves for coming on. 6th stream. Make sure you guys smash the like button if you haven't done so already. Make sure you share the channel and make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Obviously, Champions League football tonight. Last games, you know, of the group stages. And then obviously onto the knockouts, man. So I'm not going to do a watch along tonight because I'll be out. If I get a chance, I might react to one of the games, but I don't think I'll have time. So if anything, I'll be back tomorrow at some point, whether it's the morning or in the evening. But yeah, listen, been a 6th stream, man. Make sure you're smashing the likes as well. Make sure you're subbing to the channel and make sure you share the channel. Seedorf, one of the best CMs ever. I agree. Valverde, Pedri, or Vitinha. So I would start Pedri, bench Vitinha, sell Valverde for me. Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, Pedri. Yeah, start Pedri, bench Vitinha, sell Valverde. Yeah, that's what I would do. But guys, listen up. Big up yourselves each and every time. As I said, make sure you you sub to the channel, you share the channel, and you smash the like button as well. And yeah, help make this channel grow, guys. Help make this channel grow. And guys, if you don't mind as well, once the stream's finished, if you can hype the channel as well. You know, I'm not sure how the hype works, but yeah, make sure you guys hype the channel for me. Yeah, big up Fitz, man. Says another good stream. Catch you all on the next one. Make sure you all hit the like and check out the Greats of the Game playlist and get your comments in. Yeah, big up, man. As I said, guys, yeah, make sure you get your comments in and let me know what you think. As I said, there's one coming out today, Greats of the Game at 5 o'clock. And then tomorrow morning, I'll have one coming out at 10:30 or 11, which will be Gabriel Batter Shooter. And then I've got another one coming out in the evening tomorrow. The one that comes out today is going to be a good one. So, yeah, make sure you get your comments in and let me know what you think. But other than that, guys, have a good rest of the day. If I don't see some of you as well, have a good rest of the week. And, yeah, listen, we'll catch up. Make sure your notifications are on to see when I go live. And, yeah, I'll catch you guys in a bit. Take it easy. Sorry, before I go, guys, start, bench, or sell. Buffon, Casillas, Van der Sar. So I would start Buffon, bench Van der Sar, and sell Casillas. But yeah, anyways, guys, big up yourselves, and I'll catch you guys in a bit.